Sunset Shimmer's Naked Mile by Mithril Moth. Sunset Shimmer felt fortunate to have gym as her last class of the day. It meant no scrambling to take a 30-second shower and hustle to get dressed before the bell. She could take her time, scrub all the sweat and grime from her skin and hair, and care for her appearance properly before heading off to spend time with her friends. The last runnels of hot water cascaded over her breasts as she turned off the shower. Using her hands to squeegee excess water from her body, she walked over to the towel rack by the door, snatched up her fluffy orange towel with her cutie mark emblazoned on it, and wrapped it around her body. She reached for the door handle, gave it a firm push. The door rattled in its frame, but remained firm. Sunset frowned. She jiggled the handle, then pushed harder. The door refused to budge. She threw her weight against it. It remained solid. She hammered on the door with a fist.
"Hello?"
she called.
"Anybody out there? The door's stuck and I'm locked in."
There was no reply. She pounded on the door again.
"Somebody help! Please?"
She waited several minutes, periodically pounding on the door and pleading for help. "This is bad," she muttered. If nobody was out there, if they'd all gone. It might be hours before a janitor came to clean the showers. It might even be tomorrow morning. Spending the night naked in the shower room was not her idea of a good time. She looked around the shower room, which was dimly lit by sunlight from a series of long, narrow windows near the ceiling. They were there partially to save on electricity and partially due to fire code. They were up rather high, but she walked along the wall, examining the complex rod mechanisms that open the windows. She judged the height of the window and ran some figures in her head. She grimaced. "This is going to be embarrassing," she muttered. With difficulty, she managed to reach open one of the windows. Then, tying her towel securely around her and making sure her legs were impeded, she backed up all the way to the opposite wall, got as much of a running start as she could, and jumped. The first 2 times she didn't quite reach the window, but on the 3rd try she just managed to grip the edge of the windowsill. Straining, wincing at the pain of the rough metal biting into her fingers, she managed to pull herself up. She rolled through the narrow window, then carefully dropped herself onto the dirty, grassy ground outside the gym. She lay on the ground, panting from exertion and wincing at a few bruises she'd certainly have in the coming days. It was almost half a minute before she realized she was missing something. She looked up with dread at the orange cloth caught in the open window above her. Her towel hadn't made the trip down with her. Eyes wide, she rolled into a crouch, covering herself with her hands. She looked around frantically. If she could just sprint to the side entrance to the gym without being seen, then sneak in without being seen, and reach the locker room without being seen. Her heart raced as she peered around the corner. The door she wanted was just 50 yards away. There was nobody in sight. She could do this. She could make it. Setting her jaw in determination, she broke into a sprint, then tripped on a divot and sprawled flat on her face on the ground. At that exact moment, half the soccer team walked by.
"Whoa!"
Cloud Kicker said.
"Is that Sunset Shimmer?" "Oh, no." "Dude, why's she naked?"
Dunno, but I think my birthday just came early.
"Perv!" "Hey, Sunset Shimmer, are you alright?"
Sunset sprang to her feet and sprinted to the gym entrance. She tugged futilely at it, but it refused to open.
It's locked."
Ah! Sunset ran blindly around the back of the school building, away from the eyes that were following her. As she turned the corner, she collided headlong with Snips and Snails, who were crouched against the back wall. She cried out, and they went down in a confused tangle of bodies and arms and legs. A pudgy hand landed right on her left breast.
What?"
Snips looked up.
"Sunset Shimmer!"
He reflectively squeezed what he was holding on to, then looked down.
Whoa, Sunset Shimmer, you're looking pretty good there, eh?
Snail said.
You know, you really shouldn't run around naked. You could catch a cold."
Even as he said this, his hand was firmly pressed against her bottom. Her eye twitched.
"If you don't get your hands off me right this second."
Neither boy moved. Snips was laughing raspfully and Snails was drooling. With a disgusted groan, Sunset shoved him off her, kicking out of the tangle of limbs.
Oh my God! Sunset Shimmer's doing unspeakably perverted things with her lackeys right out in the open! Ah!
Sunset turned to the source of the shout, which she had already identified as Octavia Melody.
What the hell is Tavy even doing out here?
Springing to her feet, Sunset took off running again, her bare feet kicking up blades of grass. She had no longer had any concept of destination, no semblance of a plan. She just wanted to get as far away from that utterly humiliating situation as possible. She spotted a convenient shrub and dove behind it, crouching low. She peeked over the top, scanning the rear grounds of the campus. She didn't see anyone up ahead, and she wasn't about to look back the way she'd come. She took a moment to collect herself and think. If she couldn't get into the gym from the side entrance, it would be so much easier if she had her phone. She could call Rarity, explain the situation, and ask for her assistance. Rarity would be the most trustworthy and least embarrassing option here. After all, she was a dressmaker and fashionista. Unfortunately, her phone, along with her clothes, was in the locker room, in the gym. And the only way in now was the front way, which meant going through the front doors of Canterlot High, naked. Walking through the halls, naked. And walking into the front entrance of the gym, naked. And she'd have to do it before the custodial staff locked up the building, which would be in a little over 2 hours. And there would still be a lot of students and teachers in the school until then.
Ach, what a warm, supple, perfectly round bottom! So bold! Such a pleasing color!
Sunset froze up. She looked to her left. Photo Finish stood there, camera in hand.
Hold that pose! I must capture the magics! Don't you dare!
Sunset screeched, leaping from her cover and running. Behind her, she was certain she heard Photo Finish's shutter clicking and resolved to throttle her later. After 30 seconds of running, she found herself in the midst of 3 gray-skinned, yellow-eyed, thuggish boys she vaguely recognized as the ones Rarity had duped into hauling a piano all over campus for her. They were picking up trash up off the grounds, no doubt as a detention punishment. They were habitually in trouble for something. As she skidded to a halt, their eyes fell upon her. They stopped what they were doing.
Pretty girl!
Pretty girl is naked.
Pretty girl brings herself to us. Are you lost, naked girlie? Oh, hell no,
Sunset muttered, breaking right and charging past the drooling trio before they could get any exceptionally nauseating ideas. She rounded another corner and almost ran right into Miss Cheerilee. Fortunately for her, Miss Cheerilee only had eyes for her car. This was the side of the building with the faculty parking lot. Sunset's chest heaved as she watched Miss Cheerilee walk to her car. She almost considered calling out to her and asking for help. Almost. After a moment, she ducked into the alcove with the side entrance to the school Cheerilee had just used. She pulled hard on the door, but it would only open from the inside.
Damn it!
She snarled, sighing. Shaking her head, she ducked behind the shrub nearest to the side door, hoping to wait for it to open again. The door opened, and 3 teachers came out. They were engaged in a lively discussion about an upcoming soccer match.
Come on, just move along,
Sunset thought as she dug herself as deep into the shrub as she could. Her eyes began to water as she felt a twig sticking in an extremely personal and embarrassing place.
Take your silly little soccer chat and move it out to the car so I can...
The door swung shut and locked behind the teachers, who continued to stand there and talk. Sunset closed her eyes and whimpered. It was several minutes before the teachers left. By the time they were gone, Sunset was convinced she was going to have to marry the shrub she was hiding in. It certainly wanted her to have its babies. She was also cramping up, and several parts of her body were going numb. With a frustrated sigh, she pulled herself out of the shrub, brushed off the offending twig away from her crotch, and half-jogged, half-staggering along the side of the building, keeping to a half-crouched position that was probably going to leave her back aching tomorrow. Miraculously, she made it to the front corner without being spotted. As she reached the corner, Derpy came around it. The wall-eyed girl stared at her with one eye.
Hi, Sunset Shimmer.
Hi, Sunset grunted. Do you know you're naked?
Yes.
Sunset said.
Yes, I know I'm naked.
Oh, okay. Well, you look good that way. Anyway, see you tomorrow. Derpy wandered off. Sunset face-palmed. Steeling herself, Sunset chanced a glance around the corner. A steady stream of students was flowing in and out of the school's front entrance. There was no way she could make it to the doors without being seen.
I need a plan. I need a way to get to the door, preferably with as few people seeing me as possible. Once I'm inside, I'm sure I can figure out a way to keep people from seeing me, or...
A shrill whistle blew behind her.
You there! What do you think you're doing?
Eyes wide, she turned to see a uniformed police officer rushing across the street toward her, blowing a whistle.
Oh, crap!
Stop right there!
Panic seized Sunset's brain, and she did the only thing she could think to do. She ran headlong towards the school entrance. All around her, students gasped, pointed, laughed, and cheered as she ran past, up the steps, and into the lobby. She stumbled, pinwheeling her arms as her headlong dash became a skipping skid, which ended with her crashing right into Flash Sentry, knocking him to the ground.
Whoa! Flash said. Sunset, you... okay?
Flash stared at her, jaw agape. Her hand landed right onto his groin, and she immediately felt his reaction to her body.
So...
Flash swallowed.
Wow. Maybe we should get back together?
Sunset's bare feet scrambled on the slick floor as she struggled to stand. A crowd was gathering. She pushed off into a run, slipping and skidding as her feet tried to slide out from under her. She ended up on her butt, legs spread wide, offering the Crusaders a splendid view of her sex as she slid right into them, knocking Sweetie Belle over and accidentally grabbing Apple Bloom by the ankle and sending her crashing to the ground.
Sorry,
Sunset cried as she pushed herself up into a crab walk, scrambling away from the girls as quickly as she could. Once she reached a wall, she pulled herself to her feet and limped down another hall. She was so close now. The gym was less than 20 yards away. Doing her best to ignore the reactions of the students surrounding her, she staggered up to the gym door. It had been roped off with hazard tape, and a sign hung on the closed door. Basketball team practice. Canceled today due to electrical maintenance.
Oh, come on!
Sunset cried, sinking to her knees. A throat cleared behind her.
Sunset Shimmer,
The cold, stern voice of Vice Principal Luna said.
Explain why you are wandering the halls in nude, and it better be a very good explanation.
Sunset Shimmer sat in Principal Celestia's office, wrapped in a blanket taken from the nurse's office. Celestia sat behind her desk, trying her best not to laugh. Luna stood nearby, arms folded, an amused smirk on her face. Once Sunset had told her story to the two principals, Luna had fetched Rarity from the music room and given her the keys to the gym and locker room. It took 15 minutes of Sunset sitting miserably on the cold chair in Celestia's office, watching the principals trying not to laugh at her, before Rarity arrived, carrying Sunset's things. Unfortunately, Rainbow Dash, Pinkie Pie, Applejack, and Fluttershy were right behind her.
Hey, Sunset Shimmer,
Rainbow said.
Heard you did a little streaking. Why didn't you tell me you were going to run around the school naked?
Pinkie Pie whined.
We could have had a run naked around the school party.
Absolutely not, Luna said. She tilted her head. A bikini marathon, perhaps. It would make for quite the effective fundraiser. What do you think, sister? Celestia laughed. I think we'd get sued by every parent in Canterlot, she said. But we'll put a pin in that. Sunset's friends formed a human wall around her as she got dressed. I'm gonna need another shower when I get home, she muttered. I'm pretty sure I've still got a leaf in my personal private place.
Hey, look on the bright side,
Rainbow said.
Your popularity is bound to increase after this.
I don't really think I want that kind of popularity, Sunset said, rolling her eyes.
Oh, as if you never used your sex appeal to your advantage before,
Rarity said, arching an eyebrow.
Well, yeah, before.
But I've been leered at, drooled at, and groped enough for one day to last the rest of my life. Well, I think you girls should take Miss Shimmer home now, Luna said.
She's been through enough today, and
The office door opened, and a naked girl with lavender skin and long, straight violet hair walked into the office.
Principal Celestia, do you maybe have some clothes lying around I could borrow? Something's wrong with the portal. I usually don't come out naked.
The end.